Dave, thanks for taking the time out to help with the community programme. Great response to the initiative. Just go back to school to say it was the best days of your life. Would you agree with that statement?
Probably was, to be honest. Yeah, no, I enjoyed school. So it's a long time since I'm out of it now, but yeah, no, good years definitely.
What year did you do the leaving?
Sorry? What year? 2007 I think it was, so what's that, 13, 14 years ago now, yeah, so a long time ago.
Yeah. It's a difficult time for students, we all know, with uncertainty over the Leaving Cert and you know, third level, a lot of kids went to college and haven't even seen a campus, so I'm sure you're you know, you can understand the frustration for them. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's hard when you're not sure what's happening, and I'm sure all the students want clarity on what's going to happen with their exams and all the rest, but you know, hopefully they're able to just stay focused and keep working hard.
Yeah, so you're gonna offer a couple of tips for the students in the country. I suppose one of the questions that was widely asked was, how did you cope with stress when you were studying both at school and at college?
Yeah, I think particularly in the Leaving Cert, I just tried to keep myself sort of well scheduled, that I knew what I needed to study and the subjects that I was doing, and to try and to divide up my time wisely, that I covered each topic and each subject. And you know, I think if you're able to do that, you know that you sort of ticked a few boxes each day, and you're making progress. And that means if you have other things to do, like, you know, go training or you know, other things outside of school, that you're able to do them.
Yeah, I suppose another question. Obviously, you went to UCD. Was that a factor? Education and sort of combining football, was that a factor?
Yeah, I think
UCD.
I was sort of slightly fortunate in that I felt I wanted to go and study architecture, and in Dublin you could do that in UCD or DIT at the time. They were the two choices, and I had an older brother who'd been to DIT to study it. But Evan had been to UCD and gone through the kind of football process there, and was stepping up into the first team, and that was something that I saw as something I wanted to try and do as well. So in the end, I put UCD as my top choice, and I was lucky enough to get it.
Yeah, and again, going back to that, the balance, how did you combine your studying with playing? Because I know UCD, it's very important to line out with the football team.
The architecture course as well is very tough in terms of the hours you're expected to commit, not just to your lectures but outside of that, and there's always project work and things. So I've kind of found football and sport in general just to be a really good release from the work that you're doing, from the study that you're doing. That again, if you keep to the hours that you're supposed to do and continue to do a little bit extra, it's great to be able to get out on the football pitch or whatever someone's sport might be, or whatever their sort of thing outside of work is, that you can then dedicate your time to that and know that you've put the work in sort of behind the scenes then.
One of the things that always struck me about UCD was we're still very successful, even though the chunkies might have been doing exams and things like that during the summer. It never really affected the team.
Yeah, it was often days you might play a game on a Friday and somebody's got an exam that afternoon and be rushing to a game or whatever it might be. But yeah, I think UCD, we were fortunate that the college obviously understood what students were going through, particularly on the team. Whereas I think players who are maybe at a different club and trying to do exams, it's a lot harder. You know, managers mightn't quite understand that commitment that you have outside of football, but I think UCD was helpful in that regard, that they you know, provided a pathway for you to play sport and to study.
Yeah, we touched on the current situation for students. Question, if you were still in education, how would you cope mentally and physically to get ready for tests and exams?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a lot tougher this year than bar maybe last year than anything else we've seen. So I think if I was a student at the moment, and look, I'm not in the system, so you have to be careful, and you go and speak to your teachers and make sure everything that I say is correct. But for me, I continue to study as best I can and just go forward, assuming your exams are going to be going ahead. You know, put the work in, and the worst case scenario is your teachers see you working hard, and if it's them giving you your grade, or even if the exams don't go ahead, look, you're still smarter for going and doing all the study and knowing all that information. So it's only benefits you really in the long run.
Yeah. One of the other questions was, what's the best way to stay motivated for exams? But I'm sure that's a lot harder now, because kids aren't at school, it's obviously different. And
Yeah.
again, there's that uncertainty over whether they're even going to do a written exam, which
Yeah, I
must be
think-
hard for them to
I think
focus.
it's difficult, especially at a young age, to try and stick to a schedule. You know, obviously, if you're in school and you're there from whatever it is, 9 till 3 or 9 till 4, it's very easy to kind of go to your classes and you have to be there. But I think that takes a lot of discipline at such a young age. So all I would do is try and, as I said, try and make a schedule for yourself that best prepares you for each subject. And if you're able to tick off a box each day and say, okay, I've done that little bit of maths and I've done that little bit of English, then, you know, in the afternoons you can relax and, you know, go and do whatever you do outside of work.
Yeah, good question. Were you more nervous going into the Leaving Cert than you've been going into a cup final or European?
I think probably the Leaving Cert. I think the football, you're able to enjoy it a lot more, and it's always been a release for me to go and play football. It's something that I love doing. So the Leaving Cert, I think, particularly when you go into that first exam, it's a sort of anxious moment for everybody, and you know, you want to just turn the paper over and read it. And I think once you do that, you're kind of a little bit more at ease, that you think, okay, I've studied this, I've got an idea. But certainly it's an anxious few days for everybody, and I'd say to any student, don't think that you're the only one that's feeling nervous or anxious about it, because everybody is in the same boat, and people mightn't like to admit it, but I think everybody is really nervous and anxious going into those exams. Yeah,
a very good question here. I think a lot of kids, when they're going into the Leaving Cert year, you know, probably wondering what they're going to do. Should you feel worried if you still aren't sure what career path you want to take when you're going into your Leaving Cert?
I think even I remember picking my CEO and I was unsure of, I think I wanted to do the architecture, and then I thought, well, if I don't get it in Dublin, do I want to go here and there to do it, or do I want to be close to my family? And those are all tough decisions, but I think looking back on, what do we say, 2007, it's a long time ago, that, you know, between my group of friends from school, I think everybody's done it differently. Some have gone to college, some haven't. Some guys resat the Leaving Cert and got exactly what they wanted the next year. So I suppose everybody just has to follow their own path. They mightn't be certain of what they want to do, but they'll find a way. And even if they, for example, if you know the course you want and you don't get it, there's hundreds of other ways to get into whatever you really, really want to do. And if you're not sure what you want to do, that's absolutely fine. I think at 17 or 18, it's impossible to really know what you want to do with the rest of your life. So whatever it is, whether you know or you don't know, I think there's plenty of time to figure it out. Just, you know, if it's a case of picking something and in a few years' time you decide it's something else for you. I've loads of people who studied architecture with me and they're working in finance and other things. So there's no one right way or wrong way. It's just, you know, go and do what you feel that might be good for you, and if you change your mind later down the line, that's no problem.
I think it's important to emphasise that, because when you're in that sort of 5th and 6th year, it's made out that it's the be all and end all of Leaving Cert. But when you get older, you look back and you say, well, it's not actually, you know, the most
and things
thing,
changed. I mean, you look at COVID at the moment and things changed dramatically. I remember my brother started architecture, as I said, in DIT, and suddenly there was a recession and jobs were thin on the ground, and so things change all the time. But you know, I think we're quite flexible as human beings, that we can go and study other things, or as I said, you might change your mind and find yourself studying business and realise you want to go into something else, and I think there's always a pathway for that, so I wouldn't be panicked about it whatsoever.
Yeah. Question here, you mentioned your brothers, I think this might have came from one of your brothers, was what cheating technique, and we don't advocate the use of cheating in your exams, but what cheating technique did you use to beat each of your 3 brothers' Leaving Cert scores by over 80 points? I'm sure that was a proud moment when you looked at the final points.
Yeah, maybe I'm the youngest of 4 sons, so maybe I just get, you know, benefited from the years of experience from both them, and probably more so my mum, who was always on my case to study hard. So I think I probably learned from all of those, and my mum probably learned from putting three sons already through it, how to best motivate me to keep studying. But no, I think I was quite lucky. I think from their experience, I picked good subjects that suited me, and thankfully did well enough in them. Yeah.
Just in terms of football, Dave, question, I think it was asked a couple of times, for young lads who have aspirations to play football, or young girls who have an aspiration to play football, how important is it to have that qualification if things don't work out? And I think that's probably more, do you know what I mean? You can ask that more in this country, where there's, unfortunately, we don't have an industry like they do around the rest of Europe.
I think for me, I was sort of at a level in football where I wasn't going to be moving away to England and things like that, so I knew I couldn't have planned the career I've had in football. I really couldn't. I wouldn't have expected still to be playing at this age. So for me, it was always motivated to get something, probably at the time it was more about college than it was football, and just lucky that football sort of began to grow and do well in it. But even players here, I won't mention any names, but there's one guy, a player here in his late 20s who's starting a course at the moment in college, and that's great to see, because players still realise that football career will end, probably in your 30s, if not sooner, and you're going to have to do something after that. So it is really important. So at whatever stage in life, obviously for Leaving Cert students, now is a good time, but certainly beyond that, I think to have something to fall back on is really great. It's
good to see. There's a number of clubs now have set up links with colleges and scholarships. So even since you've started in the League of Ireland, you can see that there's much more of an emphasis now on education along with sport.
Yeah, I've seen that even as you said, since I think the first year I signed here, I went to the FAI, linking up with DKIT, and I know St. Pat's are linked with Maynooth and things like that. So that's great to see that clubs are providing a pathway for footballers. It's the game in England, I think, can be quite ruthless in that regard, that if they feel players aren't good enough, they'll let them go, and that's difficult. I think it's always valuable to have something to, as I said, to fall back on.
Yeah. Question in, we don't know whether it's one of your mates, we'll have to investigate, wondering how you got through Tech Graph. Was Tech Graph a difficult subject for you, or did you? I
quite enjoyed it, but it is a challenging one. I think the topics are, if it doesn't click with you, it can be a challenge, and I remember leaving school and going back to my second school a couple of years later, and I think I used to do Tech Graph on drawing boards and T-squares and all in pencil, and I'm pretty sure they use computers now, so I think things have changed a lot. But it's one that I remember sitting in class, and we didn't have the greatest of teachers, so students used to help each other and ask each other questions. And I think if anybody is struggling with a subject, go and ask, even if it's a classmate or a teacher. Someone else would be stuck on the same thing. It's absolutely guaranteed. So don't be afraid to ask people. And if it is my friend asking the questions, it's too late now. It's definitely too late now for them.
What was your favourite subject? Did you always know, even at secondary school, architecture's where I wanted to go?
I think I studied construction studies and Tech Graph, and they were two that I did well in and really enjoyed. I enjoyed studying them, and that probably pushed me towards architecture when I was picking courses. But even then, there's lots of jobs in construction, whether it be engineering or architecture or quantity surveying, things like that. So they were all things I looked at, and as I said, you can't be certain when you're picking the CEO. I filled in everything and just picked as many as I could, and hoped I would get one anyway, and whichever I got I would have gone with, and I'm sure I would have enjoyed it.
One of the final ones, what kind of study schedule would you have put together? So what way would you have studied for?
I think this is probably one thing that benefited me and that I was good at. That's obviously now people probably aren't going into class or at the moment, but every evening I would try to block off an hour or so for a certain, not just a subject, but a part of that subject, a certain topic. For Tech Graph, for example, I might just do one question a night, or every Tuesday and Thursday in that subject, and that way I was able to go, okay, I understand that, I can move on and feel confident when it comes to the exam that topic is sort of, I've got that in the back pocket, and I think that helps any student, that they know they've kind of covered everything, and feel more confident going into any exam.
I suppose finally, with Greg Sloggett did a short video last week, mental health at this moment in time, where I suppose we're lucky we're out and there's football and there's games on the horizon, but for a lot of people they're in the house and can't leave. How important is it to look after your mental health, especially for young people at this time? I think, as you said, for me to be able to come out and play football is massive, to be able to get that break from lockdown. And I think anybody who's studying, it's obviously going to be quite intense, but I think, as I said, if you can make those little schedules and provide yourself with good breaks, whatever people like doing, whether it's going for a walk, going for a cycle, even just half an hour listening to music or watching your TV show or some Netflix, I think being able to break that up and know, right, I'll get this bit done and then I'll get an hour of watching something on Netflix, I think or getting out for a walk and get some fresh air. I think it really helps that if you have that schedule, that you can get a good break and you go to bed that night and you feel like, okay, I've done that bit of work and I've been able to enjoy myself in the afternoon or whatever it might be. And I think that helps massively, just to clear your head and feel better about things. Brilliant. Thanks a million, Dave. I'm sure you'll be approached for career guidance from a number of schools now after seeing that. But listen, thanks for taking the time. And again, as you say, it's important for our young fans at this difficult time to keep their mental health right and and look after themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everybody has to look after themselves and look after number one.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dave.
Cheers.